Absolutely, just one of the coolest and impressive, exciting cards that we've really ever sold from football from the 1990s. But I'd say this is for us for a non-rookie card might be number one. This is just so cool. When Metal Universe came out with their precious metal gems, obviously the notoriety was most applied towards the basketball production, but football had it too. And actually, the football production took on a kind of a life of its own. Unlike the basketball version, the designers of the cards had a lot more leeway, it seems, because they really put on their imagination. And what we have are cards that for football are quite a bit more elaborate and take on more of just a more imaginative production. In this particular case, we have Emmitt Smith. Clearly an action pose shot, and everything is standard fare, except in the background we have our, these airplanes, and then he's got a jetpack on here in the back. It's almost like a comic book combination to the trading card space. And then of course we can talk about the condition sensitivity of the PMG Greens and their, overall scarcity and draw. Football also being a little different than basketball, it was issued in 150 serial number run as opposed to 100. But the ratios remain the same. So the greens were issued as the first 15 copies, not just the first 10, but the first 15 copies. And as it sits, it's just, one of the most coveted and important, production runs that exists. And compared to like how basketball cards have seen a rise in value, this seems like an unbelievably undervalued and exciting offering that somebody who owns it will look pretty smart at some point in the future for having acquired it while the prices were so modest. Offered here as a PSA 8.5 for this issue. That is an incredibly high grade. You never see it this way. So often we're seeing these cards in 5s and 6s, and 8.5 is basically packed fresh. This is essentially probably how the card was cut from the manufacturer, and even that puts it in special regard because most of these cards simply weren't even manufactured well enough to grade higher than a 5 or a 6. The edge chipping is usually egregious, and then the surface flaws. There's flakes and chips and all kinds of other issues that usually afflict the surfaces where we lose enamel, and there's various types of flaws. This is as well preserved and pristine as I'm sure it was produced in the day it was made. It's a virtually perfect card for this issue. Extremely unforgiving. You have a full bleed background as well, which doesn't really give much leeway for wear. But just even the manufactured shipping is so minute on this particular example. It's really a staggering copy. I don't think anybody would question this if it graded a 9. It's really, really a special example. But just from an investment perspective, again, the PMG Greens from football might be one of the most undervalued and important, places to focus for people looking to kind of be ahead of the curve. This is a place where we see people kind of continuing to come in, and the brands that are the most iconic are those who are the established immortality of football. It's not just rookie cards. When you get into these high-profile productions, it's a little bit of everything. And certainly Emmitt Smith, Mr. Texas, I think there are few comps to him. And so I think certainly he's on that top 5 or 10 list at the minimum. And so we're delighted to have this particular example. It'll be a card we never see again. Encourage people to take a close look.